Hi there, it's Hélène with another video. Thank you for joining me today. I am talking about eyeshadow today, and specifically one of the things that we hear a lot on YouTube is to shop our stash for the type of color that we are coveting from around YouTube. And one of the earlier videos that I did in that theme is a video called Green with Envy for the Perfect Yellow. I will link that video up in the cards and in the description box. I want to explore this theme again. I have a yellow now that I am happy with. It is from a Morphe palette. It is from the 35B and it is a beautiful canary yellow that is called, appropriately enough, Sunshine. I really like that yellow and I am happy with it, and my search is over. And on top of it, I ended up with a beautiful palette of a bunch of very bright colors that I could use for a whole whack of reasons. And along with that, I have been super pleased with one color that I find just truly beautiful, and it is the Exu from the Jean-Michel Basquiat collection from Urban Decay. Here's the whole palette, but that lime green is life to me, and I often will put it in on the inner lid to just give it a real pop. But I have been increasingly curious about doing an overall lime green and yellow eye, or lime green and peach eye, just overall. And maybe it's because it's fall, maybe because Halloween is coming. I'm getting back into grungy makeup, and so I just have this wish for the best colors I can. So I decided to shop my stash and see what I had. I went through everything, and that's why you'll see back here that I have a bunch of sparse areas. Usually all my palettes are displayed. Well, a bunch of my palettes are right here next to me because I want to show you what I did. I went through everything I had and did arm swatches to see what colors I had and what the color looked like, and whether it was satisfying my hope for a full look of the lime green, both matte and shimmer. So on the first one, I'm going to post a picture of the swatched arm, the first swatched arm, and talk to you about what is there. So on the top of the picture, you are going to see the swatches that I made with this green right here, Protest, from the Urban Decay Urban Spectrum palette. And it did not do anything for me as far as, it's a nice color, and it's like an olive green color, but it's definitely not a lime green color. I'm pretty sure the next one is the Too Faced color that looks a little bit green, Gilded Ganache. This one, so I did that one next. Definitely not a fit. I then went into the Sweet Peach palette and swatched Bless Her Heart, which really doesn't look green once you get it out of the pan. So that was the next color. After that, I went to Subculture, and Subculture, you will find some of the shades in here to have been on the arm and then a little bit on the side of the arm, because I was also curious about the oranges. So I swatched Destiny, and I do believe that I swatched New Wave and Edge, if I'm not mistaken. So you'll see those along the arm. And I also swatched, I wanted to swatch the green in Pastel Goth, so I swatched this one, which is called Gloom. And then I went into the Chloe Morello, I believe, for a couple of the shades for Soul and Chartreuse. These two. And Chartreuse, I was actually kind of disappointed. Actually, no. Chartreuse is kind of nice, but wasn't exactly what I was looking for. It's beautiful in the eye, but for specifically what I was looking for, it wasn't doing it. And Sol, I'm always surprised at Sol for how sheer it is, but I mean, together they look really nice, and I don't have a problem doing a look on that. If you're curious about my Ciaté Chloe second collab video, I'll just put it up in the cards and in the description box. Next up, I went to the Semi-Precious. I swatched this green, kind of a khaki bronzy green. A khaki silver green maybe. And then finally, I went into that Jean-Michel Basquiat palette for the two greens in there. So I swatched Exu and the one right next to it, which is Graffiti. And so the only one out of the whole bunch that I was somewhat reasonably happy with, going right back to the beginning, was Exu. And I also didn't mind the Chartreuse from the Chloe Morello number 2. So I ran out of space on that arm, and so I wiped off the arm and I went to the next batch of palettes. So I'm just going to do a quick swap and show you that second one. In that next set of palettes, I went into Urban Decay, and I swatched the greens and the oranges in this one as well. So Midnight Blaze, 100, Mean down here. I also swatched the yellow here, and the Joneses. And I think I also swatched Warning, if I'm not mistaken, just to try to get a full view of what was available in this palette. And I also swatched the few colors in the Jaclyn Hill palette. I don't have the names easily here. Diva and Enchanted are the two that I swatched from this palette. I also went into the Electric palette to swatch Freak and also Slowburn right there. Still not satisfied, I went into the Dare to Create palette. And I swatched, I don't have the names very quickly here. I swatched this one and all of these greens here. Then I went into my Urban Decay single shadows and I swatched Lounge because I remembered there was a green with a rust color shift, so I went with that one. And I also swatched Mildew. So again, I'm looking for lime green, grungy, rusty brown, all of those shades. And I finished up with colors from the 35B that I showed you earlier. So I went into the greens to see what it is that I could get out of that row. And I was impressed, I have to say, by this one. But very similar to Exu from the Jean-Michel Basquiat collection from Urban Decay. So when I looked at it all, I realized that I was still wanting in that area. So I attempted to shop my stash. I wanted to do a look all green, grungy with the darker colors, and I just didn't feel like I had the recipe that I wanted to achieve the eye look that I wanted. And so I decided to strongly consider the Moss Boss, the 35M from Morphe. And in looking at that palette, I realized that one of the colors that I showed you earlier is, I guess, the theme for that other palette, because this color that I said I was really kind of partial to is one of the colors in Moss Boss. And I took the arm swatches that I took, those 3 that I showed you, I compared them to what is available in the Moss Boss or 35M palette. And I realized that that was going to work. Now, Why was I looking for this green grungy look is because I have seen a few palettes released with that kind of a vibe. And one that really comes to mind right now is the Gemini palette by Melt. And Melt Cosmetics is it's on my stink list right now because, as I mentioned in the Buy Canadian video, which is a video that I will definitely link up in the cards and in the description box, I will not pay duties and shipping and all that junk that comes with having to purchase products that are not readily available in Canada. And Morphe has released this brand new palette as well through Morphe Canada. It is available and I just decided to go for it. So I am looking forward to a palette that has a ton of green, grungy shadows, some burnt orange, some pinks and purples that also go wonderfully with the green theme, and that I can do a ton with. And I'm really, really looking forward to playing with that palette along with the other colorful palettes that you were able to see today. As a side note, there are palettes that I did not feature in the swatches, which I should have. And they are the Juvia's Place Masquerade and the Heavy Metals palette from Urban Decay. So I'll show you those right away with a few swatches. Here is the Masquerade palette by Juvia's Place, and here is the green in question. I will swatch that one very quickly here, called Mali. So it's a vibrant green. I wouldn't necessarily call it a lime green, but it's a vibrant green. And it's not a lack of vibrant greens, it's more like the grungy side of things that to me is a little bit lacking in what I have. And then finally, there is, and I don't think that I did a swatch of this one, but I might have, which is Mullet. I may have forgotten to put it into the running of all the palettes I showed you, because it feels familiar that I did this. I think I did swatch this one, but I'm not sure anymore. And here is Mullet. There we go. There's the swatch. Okay, so there's all those palettes, the palettes that I missed the first time around, or that I think I missed the first time around. So I really think that the Moss Boss is going to give me that last little bit to complement my collection. Lime green and moss green are greens that I tend to be very partial to. I'm partial to greens like that and purples, and I think that Moss Boss really delivers well on that, along with some burnt colors, so the rusty oranges and reds and deeper burnt reds. I think that's the right way to say it. And so to me, that combination of colors really speaks to me. And at the price of $30 Canadian, and there's always that 10% discount, but let's call it $30 Canadian, it is a great value for money to have 35 shades. And I've been impressed so far with Morphe shadows, and the culprit in this is the Jaclyn Hill palette. I mean, this is the palette, which unbelievably to me took me almost a year to try because I was just ticked off. If you want to see more about that, I'll link the video where I feature a rant. But it took me a long time to try this palette, and when I did, I was absolutely sold on the quality. I think there is not a single real dud shadow in here. Some are chunkier, some don't appear as much, but there's no shadow in here that I would say, no, I can't use. They're all, for the most part, very usable, wearable. If anything, I thought that the palette could actually be smaller than this number of shades because some of them are very similar, but they're all very nice. And this palette is what made me decide to go and get the Dare to Create palette, as well as the 35B, which is the colorful one that I showed you earlier. Actually, I showed you all of the three palettes that I have. Now, I really wasn't looking to add another Morphe palette to my collection. I initially thought that I would prefer the Gemini, to be quite frank, But then when I looked at the Gemini, it only had that, if I remember right, that one matte kind of an olivey, limey kind of a green. And when I looked at the Moss Boss, I could get that color, something very similar, and I think 5 more. I am just going by memory here, but of course I'll have a picture here for you to see. It just seemed to make a whole lot of sense, and the fact that I wouldn't be buying the Gemini anyway because of the fact that the duties and shipping and all that junk that would come with what I consider a fairly expensive palette. Yeah, so I really feel like I put a lot of thought into what I was drawn to, trying to figure why I was drawn to it, doing the swatches, doing the comparisons. I mean, I took out 16 palettes and 2 single shadows to try to see if I had what I wanted in the collection to be able to go after the color scheme that I'm looking for. And I'm very satisfied that the Boss Moss is going to be complementary to my collection as opposed to redundant. And right now, I have to say that I have been looking at a lot of palettes this year and going, nope, 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 got it. Yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with what I have right now. Now, are there some palettes that I'm looking at? Of course I am. We're always tempted by some palettes. But in this case, I was really hunting for a specific style that I wanted to do that was not available to me right now and that I really wanted to play with. And I think, again, it's because it's fall, it's because Halloween's coming, and that's fine. But again, you know, when you know that it's a piece that you don't have and it has nothing to do with the packaging, it has nothing to do with trying to complete a collection, it just has to do with something that you want to play with, I think that's a great reason to go and expand on something that you already have plenty of. So that's it as far as my thought process on how I was going to fill this. I guess you could call it a hole in the collection. I don't really think it was a hole in the collection. A desire to play with a specific type of color. I'm looking forward to playing with the palette. I'm looking forward to doing some different looks with the palette along with other palettes that deserve some love. And I'm looking forward to bringing you all those trials and tribulations over the coming months. Thanks for watching today. I appreciate it very much. And I'm wondering, are there some holes in your collection or desired looks that you want to create that you don't have the means to right now in your collection? What are they? I would love to hear in the comments down below. And also what you think of my thought process in deciding to get the Moss Boss. I was actually surprised that it was in your release. I didn't even realize that it was. So that's kind of interesting that Hira had this wish and this palette pops up, I think, in the last month. I was really surprised by that. Anyway, that is it for today's video. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it very much. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. But for now, take care.